I never thought my name would become my greatest liability. For 28 years, I'd built immaculate credit, paid every bill on time, and saved diligently toward my own home someday. I'm Sarah Bennett, financial analyst at Meridian Investments, and I prided myself on understanding money better than most. But family dynamics? Those calculations proved far more complex. My relationship with my younger sister Jessica had always been complicated. 3 years my junior, she possessed a charisma I lacked and a tendency to leap before looking that both impressed and terrified me. Our parents doted on her, forgiving financial mishaps that would have earned me stern lectures. Jessica's just finding her way, they'd say, while I followed every rule in the book. When Jessica announced she was buying her dream house, a renovated Victorian that cost nearly twice what she could afford, I voiced concerns at our monthly family dinner. "The interest rate is higher than you think," I cautioned over dessert. "And have you factored in property taxes?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "Not everyone needs a 10-year plan, Sarah. Sometimes you just have to take a chance." My parents nodded along, my father clapping Jessica on the shoulder. "That's my girl. Sometimes the heart knows what the spreadsheet doesn't." I let it drop, knowing my advice wasn't welcome. 3 months later, Jessica moved in with a housewarming party that must have cost thousands. I brought a practical gift, a fire extinguisher and carbon monoxide detector, while others brought champagne and artwork. Jessica hugged me briefly before being pulled away by more exciting guests. Life continued. I dated occasionally, traveled when I could, and received a promotion at work. My savings grew steadily toward my own home purchase. Then came the call. That changed everything. "Ms. Bennett, this is Marcus Reynolds from First Capital Bank. We need to discuss the delinquent payments on your mortgage." "I don't have a mortgage," I replied, confused. "For the property at 1432 Elm Street," he continued. "You're listed as a co-borrower with Jessica Bennett. The account is 3 months behind." My stomach dropped. There must be a mistake. I never signed for any property with my sister. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. "Ms. Bennett, your signature is on the paperwork. I suggest you speak with your co-borrower. If this isn't resolved in the next 30 days, foreclosure proceedings will begin, and this will significantly impact your credit score." After hanging up, I sat motionless at my kitchen table. My sister's house was in danger of foreclosure, and somehow I was legally responsible. How? When? I pulled out my laptop and checked my credit report, something I did religiously every quarter. There it was, a mortgage loan I'd never approved, dragging down my perfect score like an anchor. I called Jessica immediately. No answer. I tried my parents next. "Sarah, honey," my mother answered warmly. "How are you?" "Did you know Jessica put my name on her mortgage?" I asked without preamble. A pause. "Oh, well, yes. She needed a co-signer with strong credit, and you've always been so responsible." "Mom," I said slowly, controlling my voice. "No one asked me. No one told me. I never signed anything." Another pause. "Your father handled the paperwork. Jessica really needed that house, Sarah. We knew you'd say no if we asked directly." The betrayal cut deep. My own parents had forged my signature. 28 years of responsibility had made me not a respected adult, but a resource to be exploited. "The bank called," I said flatly. "She hasn't paid in 3 months." "Oh dear," my mother sighed. "She's had some setbacks. You know how creative types struggle with regular income. We thought she'd bounce back by now." "You need to fix this," I stated. "Today." "Sarah," my father's voice now, having picked up another extension. "Don't overreact. Family helps family. Jessica needed this chance, and your credit was just sitting there, perfect and unused." "My credit wasn't just sitting there," I replied, my voice shaking. "I've been saving for my own house. Now that's in jeopardy because you committed fraud." "Fraud is a harsh word for helping your sister," my father retorted. "We'll talk to Jessica. She'll catch up on payments. This isn't a conversation, I said. Either Jessica refinances without my name, or I'm calling the bank's fraud department. You wouldn't, my mother gasped. It would destroy your sister's life, and we could face charges. I'll call you tomorrow, I replied. One day to figure this out. I hung up and stared at the wall. My family had betrayed me in one of the most fundamental ways possible. They had gambled with my financial future without my consent, and now they expected me to simply accept it as a fait accompli. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced with calculations. How much this could cost me, how long the damage to my credit would last, whether I could ever trust my family again. I pulled out a legal pad and began documenting everything. The date of the bank's call, the exact words my parents had used to justify their actions, the mortgage details I'd gleaned from my credit report. If this escalated, I wanted a precise record. By morning, I had 2 voice messages, one from Jessica pleading ignorance. Mom and Dad said they'd talk to you. And one from my father telling me to stop being so dramatic. No solutions. No plan to remove my name. I called in sick to work and made an appointment with a lawyer specializing in financial fraud. Her office was sparse but professional, much like the woman herself. Unfortunately, this happens more often than you'd think, said Amelia Cortez, reviewing my documentation. Family financial fraud is surprisingly common. What's your desired outcome here? I want my name off that mortgage, my credit restored, and no legal repercussions for myself, she nodded. We have several options, but most involve reporting your family members for fraud. The weight of that settled heavily on my shoulders. What if I don't want to do that? Then refinancing is your only real option. Your sister would need to qualify for a loan independently or find another co-signer. Given her payment history, that's unlikely. And if I do nothing? Amelia leaned forward, her expression serious. Then you're legally responsible for a mortgage you never agreed. 2, if your sister continues to miss payments, your credit will be severely damaged. If the house goes into foreclosure, you could be liable for the deficiency judgment. And if you ever want to buy your own home, this debt will count against your debt-to-income ratio, potentially making you ineligible for your own mortgage. I left with a packet of information and a heavier heart. That evening, my parents and Jessica arrived at my apartment unannounced. Jessica's eyes were red from crying. We need to talk this through like family, my mother insisted as they walked in without waiting for an invitation. You should have thought about family before committing forgery, I replied coolly. Jessica burst into fresh tears. I didn't know. They forged your signature. I thought you'd agreed, my father waved dismissively. The important thing now is to move forward constructively. We're thinking Jessica could move in with you temporarily, rent her house out, and use that income to catch up on payments. I stared at him in disbelief. That's your solution? Make me financially and physically responsible for fixing this? Don't. Be selfish, Sarah, my mother chided. Your sister could lose her house. A house she couldn't afford and obtained fraudulently, I pointed out. And I could lose my savings, my credit rating, and my chance at my own home. It's always about you, isn't it? Jessica snapped, tears suddenly gone. Always perfect Sarah, playing by all the rules. This isn't about playing by rules, it's about a consent and respect, I replied. None of you respected me enough to ask. You just took. We did this because we love your sister, my father said, his voice hardening. Sometimes family means sacrificing. Then why didn't you co-sign? I asked. Why risk my credit instead of yours? An uncomfortable silence followed. My mother broke it first. Your father's business requires him to maintain certain credit standards, and I'm not employed, so you decided my financial future was expendable, I finished for her. Less important than Dad's business or Jessica's dream house. That's not fair, my father protested. None of this is fair, I replied. I didn't create this situation, but somehow I'm expected to sacrifice everything to fix it. The conversation deteriorated from there. They left after my father delivered his parting shot. "We're family. We expect you to help fix this." After they left, I sat alone in my apartment and realized something important. This wasn't just about the mortgage. It was about a lifetime of boundaries crossed, of my responsibility being used against me rather than valued. It was about being the family fixer without agency of my own. I made 2 decisions that night. First, I would protect myself legally and financially, regardless of family fallout. Second, I would never again allow my boundaries to be trampled under the guise of family obligation. The next morning, I called in to work again, this time requesting a week of personal leave. My boss, Tanya, raised her eyebrows during our video call. In 5 years, I'd never taken unexpected time off. "Everything okay, Sarah?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "Family emergency," I replied vaguely. "I need time to sort it out." "Take what you need," she said. "Your projects are ahead of schedule anyway." That was one area of my life still under control. I thanked her and promised to check email daily. Next, I went to First Capital Bank and met with Marcus Reynolds in person. "I need to understand exactly how my name appeared on this mortgage," I explained, presenting my ID. He pulled up the file, and together we reviewed the documentation. There it was, my signature, clearly forged. Not even a good forgery. My father hadn't bothered to practice. "I did not sign this," I stated firmly. "I was never present for this closing, and I never authorized anyone to sign on my behalf." Marcus looked uncomfortable. "Ms. Bennett, are you stating that this is fraud?" "I'm stating that this is not my signature, and I did not authorize this loan. What are my options?" He explained the bank's fraud reporting process, which would trigger an investigation and potentially criminal charges. The alternative was to bring the loan current and either sell the property or refinance. "I'd like documentation stating that this signature is disputed," I said, "and I need copies of everything related to this loan." He hesitated. "Ms. Bennett, I should mention that if you formally dispute the signature, we're obligated to report it as potential fraud. This could have serious consequences for whoever signed your name." "I understand," I replied. "I still need that documentation." Armed with the bank's documentation, I visited the county recorder's office next, obtaining copies of all property records related to Jessica's house. The mortgage document showed the same forged signature. I took everything to a forensic handwriting analyst recommended by Amelia, paying the rush fee for a formal analysis. That evening, Jessica called, sobbing. "The bank froze the account," she cried. "They said you reported fraud. How could you?" "I didn't report fraud yet," I replied calmly. "I simply stated that I never signed those documents." "What's the difference?" "Dad was just trying to help me." "The difference is consent, Jessica. Did you know they forged my signature?" A telling pause. "Not exactly. Dad just said he'd take care of it when the bank wanted a cosigner." "And you didn't question that? Didn't think maybe you should ask me directly?" "I just thought, you have perfect credit, a great job. It wouldn't hurt you to help." "It is hurting me, and it would have been my decision to make." She sniffled. "What am I supposed to do now? They're talking about foreclosure." "You need to either sell the house or find another way to refinance without my name." "I can't sell. This is my dream home, and my credit isn't good enough to refinance on my own." "Those sound like exactly the reasons you shouldn't have bought it in the first place," I pointed out, "and definitely not by committing fraud." "God, you can be such a cold bitch sometimes," she spat. "No wonder you're still single." I hung up without responding. Her words stung, but less than I expected. Perhaps because they revealed more about her than me. By the end of the week, I had a comprehensive file: bank documents, property records, a forensic analysis confirming the forgery, and a record of every communication. I met with Amelia again, this time with a clearer plan. I want to give them one chance to fix this properly, I explained. If they don't, I'll proceed with formal fraud charges. Amelia drafted a formal letter outlining the evidence of forgery and the potential legal consequences. It detailed terms for resolution. Jessica would need to sell the house within 90 days or refinance without my name. Until then, my parents would need to bring the mortgage current and make all payments. The letter specified that failure to agree would result in a formal fraud report to both the bank and the police. "Are you sure you want to take such a hard line?" Amelia asked after reviewing the letter with me. "Once this goes out, your family relationship may never recover." I thought about the years I'd spent being the responsible one, only to have that responsibility weaponized against me. About my parents' casual dismissal of their betrayal. About Jessica's entitled anger. "The relationship is already damaged," I replied. "They did that, not me. I'm just refusing to be their victim." I had Amelia deliver the letter rather than delivering it myself. The phone calls started within hours, angry, tearful, accusatory. I let them go to voicemail. My mother texted that I was tearing the family apart. My father demanded I call him immediately to fix this mess you've created. Jessica vacillated between rage and pleading. I responded with a single text to their group chat. "I've made my position clear in the letter. I'm open to discussing how you'll meet these terms, but not to debate whether fraud occurred. It did." Phone buzzed immediately with responses. "Jessica, I can't believe you're doing this to me." "Mom, please, Sarah, we're family. Let's talk this through." "Dad, this is completely unnecessary. You're overreacting." I muted the chat and focused on preparing dinner, a simple pasta dish that required my full attention for precise timing. The methodical chopping, measuring, and stirring calmed me, providing a brief escape from the chaos. Later, as I was about to sleep, my phone rang again. This time, it was my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister. "Sarah, what's going on?" she asked when I answered. "Your mother called me in tears saying you're threatening to have your father arrested." I sighed. "Did she mention they forged my signature on a mortgage without my knowledge or consent?" "She said there was some misunderstanding about Jessica's house." "It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was fraud. And now they expect me to just accept the consequences." A pause. "That doesn't sound like your parents." "I have the documentation, Aunt Linda. The forged signature, the mortgage documents, everything. They didn't even ask me. They just decided my financial future was theirs to gamble with." Another long pause. I don't know what to say. "This is serious." "Yes, it is. And I'm treating it seriously." After we hung up, I realized my parents had likely called every family member, spinning their version of events. A preemptive narrative. Control I should have anticipated. I considered sending my evidence file to the entire family, but decided against it. This wasn't about winning a public relations battle. It was about protecting myself. The next day, I returned to work, focusing on my projects with renewed clarity. Something had shifted inside me. A lifetime of seeking approval had been replaced by a steely determination to protect myself. My family's disappointment no longer felt like a crushing weight. It felt like evidence that I was finally establishing necessary boundaries. My colleague Rachel noticed the change during our lunch break. "You seem different," she observed. "More, centered? Did something happen during your time off?" I hesitated, then decided to share a simplified version. Family issues. I realized I've been letting people take advantage of my responsible nature. She nodded. "Been there. My brother used to borrow money constantly, never paid it back. Took me years to learn to say no." "How did your family react when you did?" "Oh, they were furious," she laughed. "Called me selfish, heartless, you name it. But eventually they adjusted. Had to, really. I wasn't budging." Her words were oddly comforting. Perhaps there was life on the other side of this conflict. 3 days later, my father called again. This time I answered. "We've discussed your demands," he said stiffly. "Your mother and I will cover Jessica's mortgage payments until she can sell the house. And the refinancing if she doesn't sell?" A pause. "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. You need to understand how difficult this is for your sister." "I understand difficulties," I replied. "I also understand choices and consequences. I need written confirmation that you're bringing the loan current, and I want access to the online account so I can monitor payments." "You don't trust us?" he asked, sounding genuinely hurt. "No," I answered simply. "I don't." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken words. My father had never heard me speak to him this way, direct, uncompromising, without the desperate need for approval that had characterized our relationship for decades. "I'll have the bank add you to the online account," he finally said, "and I'll email confirmation when the payments are made." True to their word, my parents brought the mortgage current the following week. I received online access to monitor the account and confirmation from the bank that no missed payments would appear on my credit report. The house went on the market a month later, priced well below what Jessica had paid. Family gatherings became tense affairs that I attended rarely and briefly. My mother complained to extended family that I had abandoned Jessica in her time of need. My father treated me with a cold formality. Jessica alternated between ignoring me entirely and making pointed comments about family loyalty. At Thanksgiving, I arrived late and left early, deflecting questions about the obvious tension. My cousin Megan cornered me in the kitchen as I was preparing to leave. "What's really going on with you and Jess?" she whispered. "Your mom's been vague, but it seems serious." "Ask Jessica about her mortgage sometime," I replied quietly. "And who signed for it?" Megan's eyes widened slightly. Oh, wow. Did they?" I nodded once. "That explains a lot," she said thoughtfully. "For what it's worth, I think you're handling it better than I would have." Her support, unexpected and unsolicited, buoyed me through the awkward goodbyes. I began to build a life apart from them, joining an investment club, taking weekend hiking trips with colleagues, dating a kind architect named Michael who valued directness and boundaries as much as I did. For the first time, I didn't measure my choices against my family's expectations. Michael noticed my hesitation when he suggested meeting my family after we'd been dating for 2 months. "Family complications?" he guessed. "You could say that," I replied, then found myself telling him the whole story. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing increasingly incredulous. "They forged your signature on a mortgage? That's criminal." "Yes," I agreed, "it is." "And they acted like you were the problem for objecting?" I nodded. "I'm sorry," he said, taking my hand. "That's a profound betrayal. No wonder you're keeping your distance." His validation, so immediate, so uncomplicated, felt like a cool drink after a long thirst. This was how family should respond to harm, with recognition, not denial or blame shifting. 4 months after my ultimatum, Jessica's house sold at a loss. My parents covered the difference, and my name was officially removed from all property records. My credit score recovered gradually. The day the sale closed, I received a text from Jessica. "Happy now?" I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I drafted an email that evening addressing all 3 of them. "Today marks the end of a difficult chapter for our family. While I'm relieved the property issue is resolved, the breach of trust remains. I didn't create this situation, but I was forced to resolve it. Moving forward, I need something from each of you. Acknowledgement that my boundaries were violated, apologies without qualifications, and a commitment that nothing like this will ever happen again. I'm open to rebuilding our relationship, but only on a foundation of mutual respect. The choice is yours." My father never responded. My mother sent a message that began with, "I'm sorry you felt hurt, but..." Jessica surprisingly requested to meet for coffee 2 weeks later. We sat awkwardly across from each other at a neutral cafe. She looked tired but calmer than I'd seen her in months. "I've been doing therapy," she said after we ordered. "Trying. To figure out why I keep making the same mistakes." I nodded, but said nothing. "My therapist pointed out something interesting," she continued. "All my life, I've been rescued by mom and dad, by friends, by boyfriends. And when you refuse to be part of that pattern, I vilified you for it." "It wasn't just about refusing to rescue you," I replied carefully. "It was about having my autonomy violated." She nodded. "I get that now, or I'm starting to." She twisted her napkin nervously. "I'm not ready to apologize perfectly yet. I'm still working through a lot. But I wanted you to know I'm trying to understand. It wasn't the full acknowledgement I'd hoped for, but it was a start. Thank you for telling me." "I also wanted to ask." She hesitated. "How did you do it? Stand up to mom and dad like that? They've always been so good at making me feel like I can't survive without them." The question surprised me. I guess I finally realized I had more to lose by giving in than by standing firm. My financial independence, my self-respect, those things became non-negotiable. "I've never had either of those things," she admitted quietly. For the first time, I saw my sister clearly, not as my irresponsible nemesis, but as someone whose weaknesses had been cultivated rather than corrected, who had been denied the opportunity to develop resilience through natural consequences. "You could," I suggested. "It's never too late to start." 6 months later, I closed on my own house, a modest 2-bedroom with a garden that needed love. Michael helped me move in, and to my surprise, Jessica showed up with a housewarming gift. "It's a fire extinguisher and carbon monoxide detector," she said with a small smile. "Someone once told me they're essential." The reference to my practical gift at her own housewarming, a lifetime ago it seemed, wasn't lost on me. I hugged her briefly, the first genuine embrace we'd shared in over a year. "Thank you," I said. "They are essential." She looked around. The living room, still chaotic with half-unpacked boxes. "It's nice. Suits you somehow." "It's within my budget," I replied, unable to resist the pointed comment. She winced slightly but nodded. "I deserved that. I'm learning about budgeting now, actually, taking some financial literacy classes at the community college. That's really great, Jess." "Yeah, well, when you lose your dream house and have to move into a studio apartment, you either learn or keep crashing." She shrugged. "I'm trying. The learning approach for a change." My parents remained distant, unable to acknowledge their role or offer genuine apologies. My mother sent occasional texts with family news or holiday invitations, carefully avoiding any mention of the mortgage incident. My father limited communication to perfunctory birthday and Christmas cards. At first, their emotional withdrawal hurt deeply. I'd spend evenings analyzing our shattered relationship, wondering if I could have handled things differently. But gradually, the pain receded, replaced by a quiet certainty that I'd done what was necessary. Jessica and I began rebuilding, slowly, carefully, with new boundaries firmly in place. She found a smaller apartment within her budget and stuck with her financial literacy classes. When she mentioned considering a car loan she could barely afford, I didn't lecture or judge. I simply asked questions. Had she calculated the total cost, including insurance and maintenance? Had she researched reliability ratings? Had she considered how it might impact her other financial goals? "You sound like a financial advisor," she complained, but she did the research and ultimately chose a more modest used car that didn't strain her budget. "I was thinking," she said during one of our monthly coffee meetings, "about what you said about consequences." "What about it?" "I think mom and dad robbed me of them my whole life. Every time I made a financial mistake, they bailed me out. Every time I failed at something, they made excuses. I never had to develop, what do you call it? Financial muscles?" "Fiscal responsibility," I suggested. "Financial literacy." "Right. Those." She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "It's like they kept me a child, and I let them, because it was easier." Her insight surprised me. That's very self-aware, Jess, she shrugged. Therapy helps, so does hitting rock bottom. She hesitated. I never thanked you, did I? For what? For not enabling me, even when it would have been easier for everyone. I hadn't expected gratitude, hadn't even considered that my stance might ultimately benefit Jessica as well as myself. You're welcome, I said simply. As I planted my first garden that spring, I reflected on what the mortgage incident had taught me. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. Responsibility shouldn't make you a target for exploitation. And sometimes the healthiest form of love is establishing consequences for those who harm you, even if they're family. Michael joined me for a weekend of garden planning, bringing detailed drawings and plant suggestions based on our climate zone. You seem pensive, he observed as we marked out flower beds. Just thinking about how much has changed in a year. Last spring, I was still the family doormat, he smiled, and now you're the family backbone. I don't know if they see it that way. Does it matter? He asked gently. I considered the question seriously. Less than it used to, I admitted. I still wish things were different with my parents, but I don't regret standing my ground. For what it's worth, he said, measuring a garden stake, I think they'll come around eventually. And if they don't? He shrugged. Their loss. His matter-of-fact support reminded me again how different healthy relationships felt. No manipulation, no guilt-tripping, just honest communication and mutual respect. That summer, Jessica invited me to her small apartment for dinner, a simple meal she'd prepared herself, served on mismatched dishes in her tiny kitchen. It's not much, she apologized, but I wanted to cook for you, show you I'm becoming a real adult. It's perfect, I assured her, touched by the gesture. As we ate, she mentioned she'd been seeing our parents regularly. They ask about you, she said hesitantly. Dad especially. I maintained a neutral expression. What do you tell them? That you're doing well, that you've got a nice house and a nice boyfriend. She paused. That you seem happier now, actually. I was surprised by her perception. Do I? Yeah, less tense. Less, I don't know, wound up trying to be perfect all the time. I hadn't considered how my new boundaries might have changed me beyond my family relationships. But Jessica was right. I felt lighter, more authentic, less concerned with meeting impossible expectations. Mom's been asking if you might come to Dad's birthday dinner next month, she ventured. Nothing big, just family. I hesitated. I don't. No, Jess. I understand, she said quickly. I just thought I'd mention it. I considered my options. Continuing to avoid them entirely was simpler, but allowed the breach to calcify into permanence. Engaging without genuine reconciliation risked sending the message that their actions were forgivable without acknowledgement or change. Tell Mom I'll think about it, I finally said. The night before my father's birthday dinner, I almost canceled 3 times. Michael listened patiently as I debated with myself. What's the worst that could happen? He asked. They could act like nothing happened. They could make me the villain. They could expect me to pretend everything's fine when it's not. He nodded. And the best? I hadn't considered that. I guess they could have reflected, could be ready to acknowledge what happened, and rebuild our relationship on healthier terms. And which seems more likely, based on what you know of them? I sighed. The former. Definitely. Then go in prepared for that, he advised. Set your boundaries, stick to them, and be ready to leave if necessary. Armed with his pragmatic approach, I arrived at my parents' house the next evening, a small gift and a guarded heart in hand. My mother greeted me with brittle cheer, my father with formal politeness. Jessica gave me an encouraging smile from across the room. Dinner was a stilted affair, conversation limited to safe topics, the weather, a cousin's new baby, a recent local event. No one mentioned the mortgage incident directly, though it hovered in the air like an unwelcome ghost. As my mother served dessert, My father cleared his throat. Sarah, your mother and I have been thinking. We'd like to help with your garden landscaping. We know a good contractor who could... No, thank you, I interrupted quietly. I'm handling it myself. An awkward silence followed. My mother jumped in. But surely some help would be nice. Your father's just trying to... I appreciate the offer, I said firmly, but I prefer to manage my own home improvements. My father's jaw tightened. Still punishing us, I see. And there it was, the narrative where I was unreasonable, holding a grudge rather than protecting myself from further boundary violations. I'm not punishing anyone, I replied evenly. I'm making my own decisions about my own property. We're just trying to move forward as a family, my mother interjected. Can't we put all that unpleasantness behind us? You mean the fraud? I asked, still calm. The violation of my trust? The potential destruction of my credit and financial future? For God's sake, Sarah, my father snapped. It's been almost a year. We've apologized. What more do you want? I set my dessert fork down carefully. When did you apologize? I must have missed it. More uncomfortable silence. Jessica stared intently at her plate. We helped fix the situation, my mother finally said. We brought the mortgage current, helped with the sale. That was our way of making amends. That was your way of cleaning up the mess you made, I corrected. Not the same as acknowledging the harm and apologizing for it. My father stood abruptly. I think it's time you left. I nodded, pushing back from the table. I agree. As I collected my purse, Jessica followed me to the door. I'm sorry, she whispered. I thought maybe they'd changed. Not your fault, I assured her. Some people can't admit when they're wrong. It threatens their self-image too much. Will, you be okay? I smiled, surprising myself with the genuine feeling behind it. I'm already okay, Jess. That's what they don't understand. My name is my own again, on my mortgage, on my terms, protecting the life I've built with care. It's a signature I'm proud to stand behind.